Good morning. Welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and today is Friday, the 12th of January. This will go up on Saturday, the 13th of January. Sorry, had to fix my chair. But I'm here to do my weekly wrap-up. So, what's going on in my life? Well, apparently, snowpocalypse is coming tonight, or tomorrow, or something. My kids are one of my kids are very excited. My daughter's sick. She had a cold. We were really worried that it was COVID because she had a friend who tested positive for COVID. And so we've been testing her and she's still negative, which is good. I mean, but she does have a cold. So she is home from school at the moment. Not that she's missing anything, because they are only doing a half day of school today because they're afraid that snow will come in this afternoon and they won't be able to get kids home. So they're just shutting the schools down halfway through, which the snow's not supposed to start till late tonight. So I think that's a little, whatever, better safe than sorry, I guess. My son is very excited. So he's gonna come home in just a couple hours. It's like 2 hours after his half day of school. I think he's mostly excited because basically there's no PE today. Middle school PE is the pits. So anyway, I don't know. People in the Pacific Northwest, especially those west of the Cascade Mountains, we don't do well with weather. Like, the only weather events that we can handle with some sort of grace and ease is rain, which is good because we get a lot of it. But anything else, we just don't handle it. So my husband made an emergency grocery store run just to get us stuff to hold us through the weekend, just in case. And things are already talking about shutting down for the weekend, just in case. But we'll see. Be a lot of reading for me. And also, hopefully, we will finally take our Christmas tree down because we haven't done that yet. I am losing the battle of those who decorated it need to put it down because they haven't done it yet. So I'm sure I will get stuck with that duty yet again. So, so that's what's kind of going on my neck of the world. I'm just doing some filming this morning to kind of get stuff going. What else? I can't really say that much exciting stuff has happened. So let me just get right into the reading. I finished 2 things this week. There's a reason why I only finished 2. I'll get to that in a second. But the first thing I finished was The Winter's Tale by William Shakespeare. This is the first in my Shakespeare project, Wednesdays with William, or the Bard Room. The Bard Room is the thread on my Discord where we talk about this. And then Wednesdays with Will is my video series. I'm not going to talk about this other than to say I finished it because I'm going to talk about it on Wednesday. Well, I'm actually going to be talking about it when I finish this video, but you'll see it on Wednesday. I have like a way of analyzing these, let's just say. I borrowed it from a podcast. But anyway, I finished my first Shakespeare, The Winter's Tale. And then I finished, and I will talk more about this one, The Good House by Tananarive Due. So the reason why I haven't finished much is between this and my main digital book, that's 1,000 pages. I don't know why I started the year with 2 huge books. This one was a book club book, so I kind of had to do it, but the other one was not. But anyway, The Good House by Tananarive Due. This is like 480 pages of large pages and small print. So first thing, if you are anyone like me, if you're like me and you have eye issues, get this digitally. I'm just saying, my eyes, like, oh man, I can't believe I got this in print. Anyway, what did I think of this book? So this is an interesting thing. So I have not read Tananarive Due before. And people are talking a lot about her right now because her most recent book is out, which is The Reformatory, which does sound interesting. So, but this one was our book club. So there's a couple really interesting things about this is a local book to me. I didn't realize this. Tananarive Due lives in Longview, Washington, and this book is set outside of Longview, Washington, in a fictional town. Longview's maybe an hour away from me, and it's different from where I live now. Like, if you go north of where I am, you hit the Columbia River, so it's on the Washington side of the Columbia River. But that stretch of Oregon and Washington from like the Portland, Vancouver area to the coast is a little bit different in the rest of the state. So that actually was kind of an interesting setting in some ways. So that was good. A very unique story. It is, you know, it's somewhere between a haunted house and a possession story. I mean, it's got elements of both going. There's voodoo in it. And I don't know a lot about voodoo, so this could be way off of voodoo, or it could be completely accurate. I don't know. So it was a really unique story and an interesting story. But, well, let me say some other good things. I do think Due has a pleasant writing style. Her prose reminds me in some ways of S.A. Cosby, both in that, so S.A. Cosby, if you're familiar with him, he is a violent writer. Like there is a lot of violence in his books. My bookish best friend won't read him because of the violence, which I respect. But the way he addresses the violence is like, it is a necessity. It's not glamorized. It's not gleeful. That's why I call it the Tarantino kind of violence. It's sort of like, ooh, let's blow things up and beat people up and blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. It's just like, this is the reality kind of violence. Now, there isn't that violence in this book, but there are things that happen in this book that while the violence isn't described, they are violent things. Does that make any sense? I don't want to be spoilery with this book because I do think, you know, I'm trying to be careful about spoilers. But so, I mean, if you are upset with violence, I wouldn't worry about that in this book because the actual violence isn't there. But she has the same sort of approach to those violent things of, this is just the reality of this world. This is what's going on with this. So I like that. Now, my issues with this book basically come down, and it really only comes down to one thing and then two big things around that. One is this book needed to be better edited. For one thing, it's 480 pages. So, as I said, her writing style is in some ways like S.A. Cosby. In one major way, it is not. And that is S.A. Cosby is a very, very tight writer. Now, I've actually come across a lot of S.A. Cosby short stories, which they're fantastic. Like, I would say personally, I prefer his short stories to his novels because he's so good at writing tightly. And his novels are tight too, but it's just the impact of a short story is so strong with him. This is not tight at all. This book needs to be half this size. There are entire storylines in this book that don't need to be there. They just don't need to be there. An editor really should have gone through and just, you know, helped her kill her darlings, because this is too much. And also with a horror novel or a thriller or any kind of book that relies on suspense, momentum of the narrative is very important. So in this book, there are, like, you have the story that goes along, but then you have these sort of, like, I don't want to say they're flashbacks, but the book goes back to an earlier period and talks about something that happened before. Now, the thing is that these I'm going to call them flashbacks for lack of a better term, although they're not actually flashbacks. They're just kind of like a different timeline. They're very important to the story. So I'm not saying they shouldn't be there, but where they are placed in the book, where they are placed in the actual narrative, stops the momentum of the narrative. So you're like going on and your heart's starting to go and, you know, things are happening. Then boom, we're back 2 years earlier, or boom, we're reading someone's diary. And I'm like, and it's then once you're done reading that, it's not like the momentum picks right back up where you started. It has to build up again. And I found that really frustrating with this book. So it'll be, I don't know, I discuss it in February with my Marginals and Marguerites book group. I know that a number of the people have not yet read the book, so I will be interested to hear what other people think of it. If we weren't going to have Snowpocalypse, I might have actually run this over to one of my friends because she's waiting for the library copy. Although hopefully she's waiting for the ebook, because that's going to be easier to read. Again, there's no reason the print has to be that small in a book this big. Also, the book has no reason for the book to be this big. So I ended up giving this a C+. And I don't know, like, you know, when I give a book in kind of the C+ rating. My question is always, would I read more from this author? And I don't know if I can answer that. The idea of what I've heard about the Reformatory, the plot of the Reformatory, sounds really interesting to me. I like Nickel Boys. Both the Reformatory and Nickel Boys are based on the same reform school, and I think it's called a Dozier School, something like that, in Florida. So they're both based on the same real thing. But I've also heard from people who've read it, a lot of the complaints I just said about this book. So I don't know if I'm going to read the Reformatory. I'm going to give her props because her prose is nice, great setup, unique, but it needed some stronger editing. So because this is this big, I didn't finish anything else this week. So let me go with what I'm currently reading. I'm still reading for Historathon, 24 Hours in Ancient Athens. This is a great little, I call this my warm-up book. So like when I sit down to read my print books, I'll read just a section of this. They're about 10 pages with maybe some pictures and some little insets each. So it takes like 10 minutes to read a day, an hour of the day. And it's kind of like my warm-up for my reading time. And I'm enjoying it. Some of them I'm enjoying more than others just because they look at different rules people had in Athenian society. And some of the rules are just not as interesting to me. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. But, and some of them are more interesting. There's nothing super meaty in any of these stories. They are an illustration of what people would have been going through. It's very accessible. And if you are interested in ancient Athens, and you aren't really a really heavy history reader, this would be a good book to pick up because it is written for people who are just casually historians, casually interested in ancient Athens. I will be passing this one on to my daughter when I finish. And then my next print book I will be starting today. I actually meant to start it in December, maybe even November. Can't even quite remember, but it's Murder in Mesopotamia. It's time to get back to the dame. I definitely needed a quick read after The Good House. I keep wanting to call it The Good Place. That's definitely not the same thing. There's also another book I heard someone talking about. It's one by Anne Leary, called The Good House. So people start talking about that one, and I'm like, ooh, that's not even the same book. But anyway, I'm going to go back and read this one. I spoke about this one before because I had planned to read it earlier, but this will be interesting because I have already seen the adaptation of this one, so I know how it ends. I'm not super clear on a lot of the details, but, you know, I saw the Perot, the television show Perot. I saw that adaptation, and it's been a long time, so I know the gist. So I'm going into this one with the gist going. But I've heard good things about Murder in Mesopotamia, so we'll see. Now, where'd my list go? Make sure I have everything. Digital. So my other big book, still reading it, is In the Woods by Tana French. I am 80% done with it. I want to finish it today, so I can move on. I had planned to read The Gap of Time, which is a retelling of Twelfth Night, which I have it out from the library digitally. But then my digital hold of The Heaven and Earth grocery store came in, and I know that I cannot renew that one because I know there's a lot of holds on it, and I know there are no holds on The Gap of Time, so I can renew that. So once I finish In the Woods, which I really want to be today, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to start The Heaven and Earth grocery store by James McBride. But anyway, In the Woods, I am liking it. I will say, I know Tana French. It's interesting about Tana French because I hear different things about her. Like I hear people, don't like her, do like her. I definitely like her writing. I like the fact that just judging by this book, your focus character, your main character, which I know is different in each of the Dublin Murder Squad books, I guess, kind of rotates around, but is human, is really flawed, does stupid things. And I'm liking that. Now I've gotten to the part in the book where we're getting close to solving. There's really two mysteries in this book. So we're getting close to solving the modern mystery. We've solved part of it and we're still working on it. So I'm kind of where the pace really picks up. I mean, the pace is actually, for a book that's over 500 pages, has been pretty strong all the way through, unlike The Good House. So it's just a matter of sitting down and reading it. If I had not chosen two big books to read at once, I would have been done with it by now. But so yes, In the Woods by Tana French. I think I am definitely going to continue on with the Dublin Murder Squad. And then when I finish that, it's going to be The Heaven and Earth grocery store by James McBride. And then I feel like I need a drum roll for this because I'm doing something. I'm doing something here. Last year I had the realization and therefore unstated goal that I owed a cosmic debt to the literary universe. Is that when, and you might have heard the story. I've told this story before, but when I was a junior in high school, everyone in our school district and this had to read Huckleberry Finn. And then we had a district-wide essay test on it. And I tried to read it and I couldn't get past the dialogue. And this was before audiobooks were really kind of a thing. They existed, but they were really for people who were blind. I mean, they were for blind people. And they, if you were lucky to get one, it would be like 20 cassettes, right? And the narration would be very monotone with no performance value of it. So the audiobook was not a possibility at the time. So I didn't read it. And I just took notes in class and then BS'd my essay and got the highest score of the district. So I feel like I owe the literary universe a debt and I need to read Huck Finn. And that is one of my stated goals for this year. And I'm doing it. I am reading Huck Finn. Now, I had originally planned to do the audiobook because I was worried about still having trouble with the dialogue. I thought to myself, I was able to make it through Their Eyes Were Watching God, which also has, I shouldn't say dialect, also has some dialect issues. And that one's even probably a little bit harder because it's a very unique dialect. It's not just Southern, it's a very unique dialect. Whereas in Huck Finn, it's more Southern. But I decided instead I'm going to read it through the Serial app, which is what I have been doing. And so far, I am 17% in. The dialect is still challenging for me. I'm not going to deny that. I'm still having to stop and read it ahead. Whenever Jim talks, I have to really focus and maybe read aloud and really think about what he's saying because the dialect is still challenging for me. Now, Huck's dialect, which is more a grammatical issue, is just a little bit annoying to me. It's just a pet peeve of mine. And it's a silly pet peeve because this is not a knock against the book. Huck's dialect says a lot about his character, so it's an important part, but it's still someone needs to teach us child grammar. So that's where it is. Now, as being 17% in, I am a little surprised that this was assigned in high school. This is a lot darker than I expected it to be. I didn't realize that so much of it was pretty horrible child abuse. And this was not something that was discussed in our class, so I know that wasn't taught. But yeah, this is definitely a heavier book than I expected so far. 17% in. I know that there's a thing with a king and a duke coming up because I watched Angelia's video. She's reading it too, or did read it this week. So, and also a little point of, I said that I wasn't going to formally do the 24 and 24 challenge, which was read 24 banned books in 2024, but kind of looking at what I have going, I might just end up doing that anyway. So we'll see. Anyway, this is a banned book. So, I am not going to, now because I'm doing it on Serial, I'm only getting a little chunk a day. And if I stay on top of it, I think I finish it on February 11th. Because of that, I'm not going to talk about it again in my updates until I finish it. Just the way I do with my short story collections and that I'm doing with Les Mis this year. So if you don't hear me talk about Les Mis for the next couple weeks, or Huck Finn for the next couple weeks, and then I say I finish it, that's why. It's kind of pointless to just keep updating you on that. When a lot of my other books I finish, unless I front load the year, I usually finish it in a week. So there's a lot of turnover in those books. So my audiobook, I am still living, I'm still listening to Better Living Through Birding. Really enjoying it. I think in my last video, I said that he worked in magazines, and he did at the time I was in the book, at the point I was in the book. Since then, he's gone to work for Marvel, and I know now he has a show on Nat Geo. So his professional career, Christian Cooper's professional career, is incredibly interesting, and he is just an incredibly interesting guy, and he's so fun to listen to. I am really loving this audiobook, Better Living Through Birding. And it makes me want to go birding. And this is the wrong time of year to go birding. But when spring comes, there's a place near me, two places near me actually, that have a lot of birds. I could go birding if I wanted to. I have actually gone birding-ish. I have learned tips on this book. Like, if you see a bird, keep looking at the bird and bring your binoculars up to you. So I would always see the bird, get my binoculars, and then try to find it again with the binoculars. I learned you're not supposed to do that. So I should be a slightly better bird watcher. Bird watcher in the spring when the birds come back. So anyway, that is my week. I have a few more videos to do. Next week, I have a tag on Tuesday. And then I also will be doing my first Winter's Tale video. First of at least, probably the first of two. I will do one that's sort of, sorry, my husband is in the kitchen. Background noise. The first one is going to be just the play. And then the second one, I have yet to watch an adaptation because I wanted to do a video of the play first. Then I will watch the adaptation. So I'll probably do something on the adaptation I watched, which for Winter's Tale will probably not be that interesting because there is no big showy adaptation of it. It's not like Hamlet or Macbeth or Much Ado About Nothing, where you have a lot of different, big production adaptations. I don't think that is the case with The Winter's Tale. And then after that, provided I get through the Heaven and Earth grocery store and then through the gap of time, I will talk about the retelling that I'm choosing to read. I found two retellings, and I'm choosing this one because the other one is YA. YA doesn't really speak to me as much, so I decided to go with the adult one. So that will probably be the last one. And then this week, a couple days ago, on Wednesday, I did my drawing for my February play, which will be The Merry Wives of Windsor. So then once I do those, we'll start all over again with The Merry Wives of Windsor. So, okay, my husband's gonna keep making a lot of noise, so I'm gonna stop this now. So, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Join me down on the Discord. That's where we're talking about Shakespeare, and we're talking about Les Miserables, and we're talking about our pets, all sorts of things. Come join us down there. It's all down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.